She came home running to the mothering blackness. She names the sky her own. Good morning and welcome to Lost for Words. I'm Sarah Woods, and today we are still exploring a great woman poet, and her name is Maya Angelou. She is one of my favorites. She's a Black African American woman, born 1928 in Arkansas of the United States, and grew up during a time when racial tensions were decently high in America, and she experienced firsthand racism in her own life and feelings of being considered inferior, devalued, and even probably like a feeling of not being quite sure, like that feeling of like not belonging. And so I feel like if you know any of her stories from reading her memoirs or her biographies, I feel like it makes this poem even more powerful, that we're about to read. It's called The Mothering Blackness. And something to keep in mind while we're reading this is that during this time, Maya Angelou had split with her partner, and she had she's gone to visit Africa. She went to Egypt and she went to Ghana, and this was something she did alone with her son after splitting with her partner at this time. And so here we have this Black African American woman born in Arkansas, during this time when like blacks and whites were like very separated. And here she is now, an older woman, and she's traveling with her son to go back to the land where her ancestors have come from, where they came from. Like these people that were sold into slavery and that were brought to America, like this is where they came from. And she's going back to this place to discover it for herself. And so I think that's kind of fun to know as you read this poem that's about going home, written by Maya Angelou. So when we read the words about her returning to this mothering blackness, I like to sort of imagine Africa when I'm reading this. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. She came home running back to the mothering blackness, deep in the smothering blackness. White tears, icicle gold plains of her face. She came home running. She came down, creeping. Here to the black arms waiting, now to the warm heart waiting. Rime of alien dreams befrost her rich brown face. She came down, creeping. She came home blameless, black yet as Hagar's daughter, tall as was Sheba's daughter. Threats of northern winds die on the desert's face. She came home blameless. I love this poem. I feel like it has a beautiful momentum that like it's going fast and then it slows down and then it stops. And then it has feelings of like being frozen, being icicle cold, and then warming. It has feelings of like unabandoned, like running towards home, and then creeping because you're not sure, and then like this rest of like being there and being blameless. It just has a lot going on that's able to stir a lot of different feelings inside of you that are really cool. So in the first stanza, we'll just start with the first stanza we have, she came home running back to the mothering blackness. So we have a woman and she is returning home. And so here is this woman, she's returning home, and she's returning home back to this mothering blackness. So it's somewhere that that was home previously, and she describes this home as a mothering blackness. And because of what I know about Maya Angelou during this time, that and who she is, I kind of like to imagine that this mothering blackness is Africa, and it makes a really beautiful picture of her. I don't know if it was meant to be autobiographical or not, but I couldn't actually find where she had gone through and like explained this poem, or that anybody had. So a lot of this is just me imagining into it what I want to, which is probably scary, but either way. So we have this woman, she's coming home running. She's back to this mothering blackness, deep in this smothering blackness. So I don't know, you start to just imagine this like mother figure that is gonna like envelop this girl that is running home. And it says, white tears, icicle gold plains of her face. There's something that I really love about the idea of icicle tears. It's like, why are they frozen? Usually tears are like warm, and usually they're wet. And here we have this woman, she's returning home, and as she's returning home, her tears are forming icicles on these gold plains of her face. White icicle tears on the gold plains of her face. She came home running. So you get this idea that what's going on inside of her, or wherever she's been, has been very cold. For some reason, that like these tears, like you don't know if they're tears of pain or joy or sorrow, or what they are, but whatever these tears are, they have frozen. So it's like this feeling that she's come from somewhere that is freezing and that is so cold. Then it says, she came down creeping, here to the black arms waiting, now to the warm heart waiting. Rime of alien dreams befrost her rich brown face, she came down creeping. So in the first stanza, we have this running back to this mothering blackness. Stanza 2, we have this lowered position that is creeping, hunched, slower. I don't know if it's more shameful or more afraid, but it's creeping, it's cautious, it's slow, but it's still returning. She came down creeping, here to the black arms waiting. So now this this mothering blackness is starting to have like more of a physicality to her. She's got arms, and these black arms are waiting for her. This woman went from running to creeping slowly, but these black arms are waiting for her. And then it says, now to the warm heart waiting. And so now you start to imagine this woman being gathered by these black arms and brought in close to a warm heart. So in the first stanza, we have this mothering figure that she's running towards, this mothering blackness. Now this mothering blackness has dark black arms and a warm heart that is embracing this woman. And then it says, rime of alien dreams befrost her rich brown face. I think rime is like frozen water droplets. And so I think you start to imagine this frozen like frost on her face, on her rich brown face, these frozen water droplets, this frost on her face. And it says Rime of Alien Dreams. When I think of an alien, I think of someone who is like a foreigner, someone who is a foreigner in a land. So this makes me think of the idea of a foreigner in a land, and a person in a foreign land, like their dreams. I guess I kind of like to imagine that their dream is for home, or is for a home. And so I'm imagining this woman's face frosted over with frozen dreams of home. That's what these icicle tears are made of a longing for home, a sorrow for home, a like deep yearning for home, a pain of being away from home. That's what is, befrosting her face. So she has run to the mothering blackness. She has creeped into these black arms waiting and this warm heart, and her alien dreams frosted on her face. And then it says, stanza 3, it says, she came home blameless, black yet as Hagar's daughter, tall as was Sheba's daughter. Threats of northern winds die on the desert's face. She came home blameless. So to me, this part of the poem has an interesting turn to it, because she's returning home. She started off running, and then the second stanza she was creeping. So it makes me wonder if there was some like hesitation in returning home, that to clarify in the third stanza that she came home blameless, right after having talked about her creeping. She came down creeping. It makes me wonder that if there was some hesitation about wondering if she would be welcomed back home, wondering if she had done something wrong. But Maya Angelou in this third stanza clarifies. She says she came home blameless. That, she came home, whether she ran or she creeped home, those black arms were waiting for her. They were there, ready to embrace her into their warm heart. And it says, she came home blameless, black yet as Hagar's daughter, tall as was Sheba's daughter. So these two women are both well-known figures in history, biblical history, and in like ancient stories, legends, that are connected to Egypt and Ethiopia, Africa. Hagar was an Egyptian slave who was forced to bear a son for Abraham and his wife, but then was rejected, and she ended up raising her son in the desert, where she thought in the beginning she was going to die and that she wasn't going to make it. And then God brought her to a well and gave her water, and she survived and raised her son there to be like an archer, I think. And I think like God ended up giving him like a new promise that he would be the father of a great nation. But she raised her son alone in the desert, which was interesting to me because at this season of Maya Angelou's life, she's raising her son alone, and she is trying to return to Africa. Sheba was a queen of Ethiopia who I believe, ends up having an encounter with King Solomon. These are biblical stories that you can look up, and they're also found in other places. But she is very wise, very rich. So it says tall as was Sheba's daughter. So that makes you think of someone who's like you're proud of, that's like strong and worthy and dignity kind of thing. Sheba was this rich, powerful queen. She was very wise, and King Solomon was imploring her to worship his God, which is the God that is worshipped in the Bible. And I believe Sheba may have worshipped the sun, and I believe she ends up going to visit Solomon, and she brings all this gold and all these spices, and she wants to see if he's really as wise as everybody says he is. And while she's there, I think she ends up getting pregnant with his son, and she goes back to Ethiopia, and she ends up raising this son on her own also. And I do believe she ends up converting to worship the God that Solomon worshipped. But it's still like she's this figure of African history. This son that she has with King Solomon is I feel like his lineage has been followed all the way up until like almost modern day. So there's like a rich history there. But she's this like powerful, rich, like honored queen who raises this son on her own, which I feel like is touches a little bit of what's going on in Maya Angelou's life at this moment. So you have these two women that Maya Angelou is like sort of relating to, looking up to, and identifying with, or this woman is, in this poem is relating to, possibly Maya Angelou. And she says, and so both of these women are African. You think of Africa when you think of these women, Egypt, Ethiopia. And she says, she came home blameless, black yet as Hagar's daughter, tall as was Sheba's daughter. So like this feeling of like looking like them and being proud of her heritage. And then it says, threats of northern winds die on the desert's face. She came home blameless. It's almost like this coldness that was a part of her tears, her sorrow, her dreams of having a home. That when wherever she was before, they were freezing her, but now that she's back home in these black arms that have been waiting for her, it's like this threat of coldness, these northern winds, they die when they reach the desert, and they don't reach her anymore. I don't know, this makes me have this, it makes me imagine that her tears are no longer frozen, that that when she cries, that her tears are warm and that they're wet, that her dreams are no longer frozen, they're reality. So I don't know, I just think this is a really beautiful poem. I love the colors. I love the like rich brown face and the mothering blackness. I love the white icicle tears on the gold plains of her face. The colors are so beautiful in this poem. And then I love the thought of like being so cold that your insides are that cold that when you cry, your tears form icicles, and that upon arriving at this home, this mothering place, this warm heart, that it's like you're being warmed and your tears are allowed to thaw and like actually cry, like they don't freeze anymore, and that like you're safe here, and that when northern winds like try to reach you, that they hit that desert and it's so hot they die. Like I don't know, I just really like that. Yeah, this is a really cool poem. It's highly possible this poem could have a different meaning. This is just where my imagination went with it, with information that I was able to find. But I feel like it's one that's it's sort of vague enough that you could play with it in your imagination if you wanted to, if you wanted it to have different meanings. But anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed that, and look forward to seeing you guys again next week. All right, have a good day.